You can be a perfect driver and still accidentally kill your battery range. The enemy isn't your foot, it's your default settings. Change these 3 toggle switches today, or you're essentially burning money every mile you drive. Setting number 1. Your daily charge limit. Most owners assume battery wear comes from hard driving. It doesn't. It comes from where your battery spends its time. The common pattern is charging to 90% or 100% every night, then letting the car sit there for hours. It feels responsible. More range feels safer. But lithium-ion chemistry doesn't treat full the way a fuel tank does. At higher state of charge, the battery cells operate at higher voltage. Tesla engineers design safety buffers into the pack, and nothing catastrophic happens at 100%. But sustained high voltage slightly accelerates calendar aging, the gradual chemical degradation that occurs over time, even when the car is parked. This isn't speculation. Tesla's own charging documentation advises limiting daily charge and avoiding unnecessary high states of charge for routine use. Independent battery research supports the same conclusion. Calendar aging increases as time at high voltage increases, especially at elevated temperatures. Here's the key shift. Battery wear is influenced more by time at extreme states than by miles driven. If your car briefly charges to 100% before a road trip and immediately drives down to 85%, that exposure is short. But if it sits at 100% for 10-12 hours every night, that exposure compounds quietly. You may also notice reduced regenerative braking when the battery is near full. That's because the pack has little headroom to accept more energy. The system limits regen to protect voltage levels. That's not random. It's operating at the edge. The correction is straightforward. Set your daily charge limit based on actual driving needs. For most owners, 70 to 80% is more than sufficient. Raise the limit to 90 to 100% only before longer trips, and avoid letting the vehicle sit at full charge longer than necessary. You're not trying to outsmart the battery management system. You're simply reducing stress it would otherwise have to manage. The benefit isn't dramatic in the short term, but over 5, 7, or 10 years, small differences in voltage exposure influence retained capacity. That affects usable range and resale consistency. This is not about fear. It's about alignment. Set it once. Let chemistry work in your favor. That was just the first leak. Subscribe right now to seal the rest of them. Let's get to setting number 2. Setting 2. Regenerative braking configuration. When regenerative braking feels inconsistent, most owners assume something is wrong. The pedal response changes. The car doesn't slow as strongly. Dashed lines appear on the power meter. It's easy to think the system is failing. It isn't. The first mistake is running with reduced or low regen out of habit. Some drivers prefer the lighter deceleration feel. Others switch it without understanding what they're giving up. The second mistake is misreading temporary regen limits, especially in cold weather or at high state of charge, as a malfunction rather than normal battery protection. Regen is not just a comfort feature. It is energy recovery. When you lift off the accelerator, the drive unit acts as a generator. Kinetic energy that would normally become heat in brake pads is converted back into stored energy in the battery. That recovered energy improves efficiency and reduces mechanical brake use. But there's a condition. The battery must be able to accept that energy. If the pack is cold, internal resistance increases. If the battery is near full, there isn't enough voltage headroom to safely absorb more charge. In both cases, the system limits regenerative braking to protect the cells. That's when you see dashed lines on the energy bar. That's not random. It's protective logic. When regen is limited, your car relies more on friction brakes to slow down. Friction braking is perfectly safe, but it converts motion into heat instead of stored energy. Over time, that means lower efficiency and more brake wear. In daily driving, especially in city conditions with frequent deceleration, strong regenerative braking makes a measurable difference. You recover more energy, you maintain better efficiency, and your brake pads can last significantly longer because they're used primarily for final stopping rather than continuous slowing. So what should you do? Set regenerative braking to standard. Let the system recover as much energy as conditions allow. Tesla's tuning balances efficiency with smoothness. There's no performance penalty for using it as designed. Then understand what you're seeing. If regen is reduced in the morning during winter, that's temperature. Once the battery warms, either through driving or preconditioning, full regen typically returns. If regen is limited near 100% charge, that's voltage headroom. As your SOC drops, full regenerative capability comes back. Knowing this changes how you interpret the car. Instead of assuming inconsistency, you start reading signals. You also begin to notice efficiency trends. When regen is fully available, you'll often see lower energy consumption in stop-and-go traffic. When it's restricted, your web/my rises slightly because more deceleration is handled mechanically. It's subtle, but it compounds. Using standard regen maximizes daily efficiency without changing how you drive. It keeps braking load shared properly between the drive unit and friction brakes. It also preserves brake hardware over the long term by reducing unnecessary use. Most importantly, it prevents you from misdiagnosing normal battery behavior as a problem. Regen isn't about convenience, it's about energy management. Configure it correctly, understand its limits, and let the system work the way it was engineered to. Setting 3. Navigation for supercharging. Battery preconditioning. If your supercharging sessions feel slower than expected, the issue may not be the charger. It may be how you arrived. Many owners pull up to a supercharger by memory, or by using a phone's map. The stall is available, the cable plugs in, everything looks normal. But if you did not route to that supercharger using Tesla's built-in navigation, one critical process may not have started. Battery preconditioning. Lithium-ion batteries charge fastest within a controlled temperature range. Not too cold, not too warm. When the battery is outside that range, internal resistance increases. Charging current must be limited to protect the cells. That's why charging speed can vary so dramatically. At an optimized temperature, your Tesla may accept 150 to 250 kWh depending on the model and state of charge. Arrive with a cold battery, especially in winter, and you may see 30 to 60 kWh instead, sometimes lower. That's not a charger problem. That's temperature physics. When you set a supercharger as your destination in Tesla navigation, the car prepares in advance. If the battery is cold, the system draws energy to warm it. If conditions require cooling, thermal management adjusts accordingly. This happens while you're driving, so by the time you arrive, the pack is closer to its ideal charging window. Without routing through navigation, this process does not automatically trigger. That's the detail most people miss. If you plug in with a cold battery, the car will still try to manage temperature, but now it has to warm the pack while charging. That reduces charging efficiency and extends your stop. Energy that could have gone into the cells is partially diverted to thermal conditioning. You end up spending more time at the stall than necessary. So what's the correction? Always route to superchargers using Tesla navigation, even if you already know the location. Let the system know your intent. Ideally, allow at least 15 to 20 minutes of driving before arrival to give preconditioning time to work. You can confirm it visually. When active, the display indicates that the battery is preconditioning for fast charging. That small confirmation changes the outcome of your stop. Arriving at the correct temperature means the battery can accept higher charge rates immediately. Charging curves still taper as state of charge increases. That's normal, but the initial phase is significantly faster when the pack is prepared. The benefit is straightforward. Shorter charging sessions, more predictable stop times, improved overall trip efficiency. There's also a long-term angle. Thermal management is central to battery longevity. Charging at appropriate temperature reduces unnecessary internal stress and uneven heat distribution. The BMS is designed to regulate this, but preconditioning gives it a head start. This isn't about squeezing peak numbers from a charging session. It's about consistency. Route properly. Arrive prepared. Let the system do what it was engineered to do. Small decisions before you plug in determine how smoothly the entire charging cycle unfolds. Final thought. Quiet configuration. Big impact. None of this is about driving style. It's about configuration. Your Tesla already has sophisticated protections built into the battery management system. It monitors voltage, temperature, and charge rates constantly. But those protections work best when your settings support them. If your charge limit lives too high, regen isn't configured properly, or you arrive at superchargers without preconditioning, the system has to compensate. It will protect the pack. It always does. but you're adding unnecessary load it doesn't need. That's the difference. These are small setup decisions. You adjust them once, and they influence every mile after that. Most owners never revisit these 3 settings after delivery day. They focus on features, acceleration, updates. But long-term ownership isn't about excitement. It's about alignment. Configure the car correctly, and it quietly works in your favor for years. In the next breakdown, we'll look at 3 driving habits that reduce real-world range without you noticing. For more no-fluff Tesla mastery, stick around.